here.
I am no way. Oh, how about that? Now you get over there. Oh, that's much better. We got it. All right. I saw an interesting question. I think I should do this right there.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you don't have to pay extra for the fancy camera work. Okay. How's that? Is that
Seriously.
better?
That's much.
You still short. Oh, wait. You are
I'm
short.
always
Oh,
short.
okay. Anyway, somebody put online, right? I guess he was aiming at people from the right side of the Uniparty. He said, what would it take for you to vote uh, Democrat? And I was like, for me, that was absolutely just an easy question. Okay. Uh, for me, it would take some. I'm a firm believer on the news. Okay. They're lying to you. They're the propaganda wing of the left. All right. They get on there and fact check and they say things that you can look up just in a couple of seconds, especially on vaccines these days, that are illegal, are wrong. But it's the Democratic platform, and that's what they're doing. Okay. Now, if you're raised, watching this news, you believe they're telling you the truth. And for you, it's unthinkable for them, for you to admit that, okay, well, no, the news is not the news. Well, it's not. I think everybody needs to grow up and start doing their own fact checking. But for me, it's very simple. Would I vote for Kamala Harris? Well, uh, no, not because she hasn't put forward a plan. Depending on who she's talking to, is what she's saying. The Democratic platform doesn't seem to have a platform. The DNC, when you go look at it, okay, I'll tell you why that I would vote for why I did vote for Trump and not for Kamala Harris. For one, the border. Okay, this is a real problem. All right, the Venezuelan gangs, they literally emptied the prison and sent these people here. This is real. This is the truth. They have taken over a apartment complex. They have raped, or whatever you want to call it, women to death here in America. Okay, so to pretend, and the media actually fact check Donald Trump on that. She says, and she did it with JD Vance too, CNN. Oh, they said only a few apartment complexes.
One is too many.
One is too many. This is America. All right, the Democrats have to come around to the problem of the border, but they're not going to. And why are they not going to? Well, we're seeing it right now. They're losing their voters. All right. After when Barack Obama was president, he put us on this horrible woke path. All right, it's a destructive path, and he did it just to get reelected and to get his agenda through. All right, now what we have, the Democrats, if they can get the pedophilia and the sex out of the schools, right? I might consider coming to your party. This whole baby killing thing, all right, you want to nationalize it? You've corrupted our young women. The children are with God, but the woman is the one that gets damaged from all this abortion stuff. All right. Now, the economy is an ever loving joke. They had this spending reduction act, but it was a joke. It's a comical thing because in that act, it gave money to both Ukraine and to Israel. All right, stop funding foreign wars.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the two-party system was a great idea, but now we've gotten to the point where one party doesn't even care what the other party says. The rhetoric coming from the left is horrible. All right, it is just, and if you're a Democrat, you don't even know it because you hear it all the time. You agree with it because you've been brainwashed to it. The rhetoric coming from the right is bad. It's not as bad, but it's pretty bad too. But the problem with these systems is, we just came away from God, I guess. But Joe Biden can't figure it out. He says, I want to be the president for the entire nation. He effed up on day one. All right. This war in the Ukraine, for what we have and the escalation of the war, I mean, the problems in the Middle East, This all has to do with oil. When we became energy dependent again instead of independent, now we're buying oil from countries that hate each other. And when you infuse that much money into their economy,
War ensues.
war ensues. They finance terrorism. This is what they do. But I think both sides need to calm down. And if there's any take, I do believe this will end in violence. I pray to God it's not going to, but you look at 2016, these were not voting Republicans that were out burning the country down, terrorizing people. All right. These were not Republicans. These were people from the far left of the Uniparty. The Democratic Party has a militant section. They have a publicity section. When you look up the definition of a Nazi, I'm telling you, all right?
Yeah.
We saw this before with Adolf Hitler. Now, you got to understand the Democrats are not really Nazis, they're socialists. Now, the Socialist Manifesto, right? What was that guy that wrote it, right? Karl Marx, he put in there control the media. When you get caught doing something, blame the other guy and keep doing it. It doesn't matter because you control the press, you control the schools. So they're going to believe what you say.
That's right. That's right.
But now we're to the point where the media is hurting the nation. All right. They've always leaned left. It's never been a secret. But now we are to the point where you have the internet now. And now they're going after freedom of speech. They're calling it hate speech and misinformation. No, that's coming from your side. I believe if we do away with this censorship stuff, if it's wrong, put a community note on there.
Yeah, and that's it.
Right. But both sides of the story have to get out or violence will ensue. The internet exists, so you can't curtail your message anymore. And that's what the mainstream media doesn't understand.
Yeah, you can't
Right.
you can't pick and choose anymore. You got all this information out there. You kind of have to sift through it and use common sense. And unfortunately, the trope shows up. Common sense is not so common. People are just they have their opinions, and that's how it has to be. And I mean, I was watching. There's this one pastor, call him pastor up there, that is advocate. I mean, look, he does long sermons, and so in between the sermons he says some really outrageous things because it's been working for him. He's getting a large following. He says things like women that accuse a man of rape uh, without that didn't rape him, right? On how would you say it? On that accuse a man
falsely accused. Yeah.
Thank you. Falsely accuse a man of rape. They need to be put to death. Okay. Or he says something like women shouldn't have a right to vote. Or he says things like there should be one vote per household, and it should be the man doing the voting, and things like that, left and right, up and down, left and right. It's controversial, and it's meant to get a rise out of people. But the whole point is, my husband. I was talking to him about it, and he said there's some of this stuff is designed to scare women.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
And what I think, what his message is, that guy's message is designed to bring men into a sort of reality and wake him up, so to speak, right? But what he's actually doing, okay, is scaring women. Okay. Now, most of us understand that your husband isn't going to vote for you. And, if you're an individual, you're going to have your own opinions and your own everything. But when a Christian pastor that has a large following says women shouldn't vote, there should be only the men they vote, that they say that he says that women should be put to death and things like that. It scares the women. And what they do is, because they don't have a Christian value or maybe a Christian husband,
Yeah,
all of that. What that does, it creates that, oh, I no way will I vote for a conservative because that's the plan. And he's actually making more harm to the cause of Christ than he is
correct.
benefit the cause of Christ.
But look, I mean, it's all of these things that are important to you. There's this one chick, what's her name, Pearl Davis,
Mhm.
okay? She's I guess they call her, what do they call her, a pick me or something? But anyway, her whole channel seems to exist to tell women how wrong they are. Look, it's amusing. A lot of it is just gibberish and stuff. But in a lot of ways, it's true. All right. I saw her, she's standing there with the voters, and she's asking the voters, all right, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? And each and every one of them answered with a catchphrase that they have no idea what the meaning of it is, right? I'm here for reproductive rights. That's not true. Reproductive rights is murdering a child. You can look up what an abortion is. I've heard someone try to argue, all right, but that's not it. And I mean, you want to solve this abortion problem, all right? My mama told me, and I swear to God, this is the truth. My mother told me when I was very young, rap it for you tap it.
Mhm.
All right, if my mother knew this, so you're telling me modern day women are so effing stupid, excuse my French, okay, that you don't know how to do this, right? I mean, that's the simplest solution. Either abstain from sex, like 80% of the single men do, okay? Or use a condom.
The problem is that
Birth control pills?
they
Mm, that just blows my mind. But no.
the consequences of unprotected sex are suffered by 100% of the women.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means the guy can be having fun with a bunch of girls, and ultimately the one that's gonna get pregnant is a woman, not a man.
Yes.
Now, that does not mean that you, man, then you are not responsible for your own behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will tell you that my impression from the world that we've seen so far, it is one group of men that are sleeping with a bunch of women,
Yeah.
foolish, gullible women.
Right.
Okay, no man is going to marry a woman that has had 20,
Look,
30 partners in her life.
there's a name for women. This whole feminism thing, it's so sad, and it's so sad for women, okay? There's a name for women who have these beliefs and have been brainwashed into this, and it's a cat lady. You're going to wind up alone, and you're going to convince yourself that you're happy having cats and no children. All right? And it's a sad thing. But I mean, these are all serious problems that the media intensifies. Okay. And it's like what we need to do is we need to let freedom of speech. I mean, that Charlie Kirk fella, I don't particularly like him, but I do like his message, and he's done wonders on college campuses to open them up to listening to both sides.
Yeah.
You can believe and you can vote any way you want, and I support you. All I'm asking is don't go and vote and say, I feel, or don't go and vote with a catchphrase. Actually look things up and tell me one good thing Kamala Harris or this administration has done in the last 4 years. This roller coaster of a ride in the last 4 years has been so decisive and so devastating to this country. I went from paying about 200, maybe $175 a week for groceries. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Mhm.
And now it's costing me $600 a week to feed my family. And that's
crazy.
just during this administration. All right. We cannot afford to send trillions of dollars to the Ukraine and to finance this immigration nightmare that's coming across the border. It's the economy, stupid.
And and they have reduced women to one single issue.
Yep.
Which is insane to me. Okay.
When it's a non-issue
when
now.
it's not a non-issue, and again, you know, the pastors, the Christian men out there saying, "Oh,
Weak men.
we need to go back to the patriarchy. We need to do this and that, and it's all about men need to be in charge." You know what? Can I just say this? Men have been in charge. Okay, men have been in charge of the churches. Men have been in charge of the power of this country. Men have been in charge of the military. Men have been in charge of everything. Now, what the problem is, women are uneducated. Your Christian women are uneducated, and it's on purpose. On purpose. Your pastor keeps you stupid on purpose.
And it's like people that don't know seem to have the loudest voices, right? This doesn't, well, it does, but it doesn't, okay? The gun control issue is a huge issue. People who know the least about firearms have the biggest voice. And even in the firearms community, right? All right, one argument. Should you carry on a loaded chamber in an unloaded chamber? All right. Anyone that has a depth of experience with firearms knows that there are certain firearms that it's not safe to carry with a loaded chamber. So there's no answer to that question. It depends on your comfort level with the firearm, okay, and what kind of firearm you're carrying and where you're carrying it, okay? But nope. Every time I get on there and talk about that and say common sense, no, you've got one small group of people who more than likely don't own firearms, and they, oh no, it's got to be a loaded chamber. And there's no answer to it, right? There's no answer to the border problem. I believe in immigration. Where the answer is this has been done by this administration, and now they're literally flying people in so the numbers don't show at the border. This is illegal. All right. This is a violation of your oath to protect this country. And we get no justice. It goes back to there has to be equal justice in this country, and we do not. All right. And that's the problem. If you're a Republican poll worker in Arizona, I believe she got 15 years for exposing some stuff there, right? But if you're a Democratic poll worker in Colorado and you do the exact same crime, oh, it's no big deal. It is. It's the same crime. All right? If you put people in jail for rioting at the Capitol, you have to put people in jail for rioting everywhere else. You have to understand that this dual sense of justice is why Trump is so popular, because we want him to fix Washington. James Comey illegally put surveillance on a presidential candidate and later a president. That's treason. But because he's a Democrat, nothing is going to happen. All right. You put a guy in prison for 4 months, that Steve Bannon fellow, which I do not like, for contempt of Congress. Yet James Holder was held in contempt of Congress, I believe, 3 times. But because he's a Democrat, or leans to your party, I might say, right? He didn't have to go to jail. This is not justice. This is a witch hunt. So yes, would I vote Democrat? Yeah, there's a lot of things that they have principles in the Democratic Party I agree with. But I cannot stand the bullying. And it's like when you sit down there and it's like people that are on the blue team, they're not stupid. They've been brainwashed. I mean, look, just on the economy alone, you cannot say that you've had fun this last 4 years.
No.
Right?
No, it's scary.
But anyway, it's just our major problem is the schools. All right. Our major problem is the media. I mean, yeah, they're just propagandists. Not a word they say is true. It's an opinion.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a fact. That's a fact. And I mean, the churches are not doing any favors.
Nah.
The patriarchy is not doing any favors, saying
Anymore.
things like women shouldn't have the right to vote. It makes the women that are gullible dig their heels in and say, I'm not doing it.
But you see how decisive this is? Because my wife is a free-thinking woman, and I've always encouraged that, okay? But you people in the church that are starting to throw this crap out, you've even made my wife mad and paranoid. I personally don't believe that anyone would ever appeal. And I'll tell you why they would never appeal the 19th Amendment. Because women are the ones that vote Democrat, because you have corrupted their thinking with this. For me, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Once a woman is willing to murder a child, any decision she makes after that is suspect. And any man that would allow a woman to murder his baby, any decision he makes after that is suspicious. You cannot do something that nasty and then pretend to hold the moral high ground. You can't do it.
Here's the thing.
Then there's the whole pedo thing with the Democratic Party.
If I guess if you're a woman and you're a Christian woman, and when you hear this guy say a woman can't preach, a woman shouldn't have any authority, a woman needs to be submissive to her husband, and then on top of that you hear, well, a woman shouldn't have any opinion of her own but that of her household and her husband. You're being gaslighted into believing
Me
that
and my wife disagree on lots of stuff.
You don't get to have your own opinions.
On the major stuff, we're dead on the same page. That's why our marriage works.
Right. The point is, both men and women are created equals under the eyes of God. Okay, we have both the same right, the same value under God. There is a difference in how our brain work, things that we think are valuable, things that we see, how we see things in the world. Our minds work a little differently than men. Men and women's brain work differently.
And the Democrats,
and that is why you want both sides of the story. You want you want your wife to give you her opinion, and sometimes she's going to be right and you guys can agree together. And you want your husband to give you his opinion because he thinks things a little differently.
There you go.
And that's why you want women in all areas of life.
But see, and that's where the Democratic Party shines. All right? They've convinced you that certain issues are the sole issue. Whenever you see these issues, ask yourself, why are they talking about this? And look, Roe versus Wade got overturned for one reason only. It was illegal. We have a constitution in this country. Anything that's not mentioned in that constitution, by law, by the constitution, it goes to the states. All right? But yeah, I mean, it's like these women get up there and they pick on other women and make them afraid. All right? And you shouldn't be afraid. All right. If you want to live in a state where baby killing is a thing, just move. Or if you want to get an abortion, just go. But the hate and the fear mongering that comes from the Democratic Party, like the state police are going to stop a car going across the border. Shut the front door. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to, and see, the thing is, you see that commercial, and
if you're a woman, it makes you afraid.
If as a free thinking woman, you look at it, you're like, okay, well, that would never happen. But then you have.
But what if?
But then you have those pastors saying women shouldn't have any right to vote.
But they've always been saying that.
Women, no, but here's the difference. This is how I see it differently, because here's okay. There's pastors out there that will tell you you don't get the right to vote, you don't get the right to have your opinion because you're a woman, etc. X, Y, and Z. That has always been the case. Okay, that has always been a thing in the churches. That is not the problem. The problem to me is if you, for instance, look at the comments on that guy's website or that guy's X account, that pastor, you have a slew of men. Yes, brother. Amen, brother. That's it. And that is what worries me. There is a following that likes that, and it's all these people. They have a voice. They have a following, and they have a microphone that is large enough to make a difference.
But
and then you have people like Alibet Stuckey that has a huge microphone, and she will agree with them.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. She is the biggest hypocrite out there. And I'm calling her out. I tell you why. She says women are not allowed to preach to men. Okay, but if you saw her thing, share the Eras concert, whatever, guess what was all over the background while she was preaching on the stage? Men. Okay, she's a hypocrite,
Yeah,
and she's part of the party.
both sides have issues, and we
Whatever.
need to be able to talk them out.
Yeah.
All right, now y'all people piss my wife off on this, and I'm of the category. I sit back there, and it's like I can remember when my wife first started studying the Bible and everything, and she was saying, "Well, women can't be preachers." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care," and it irritated her because she had been taught by the preachers that women can't hold a position of authority in the church, and I'm like, I'm not afraid of women. I don't give a shit. Excuse my French, but yeah, I don't care, right? Yeah, I will listen to anyone that can preach a good sermon. And when I did all my studying on the Bible, I found out that what Paul said, what it was in a letter and it was to a specific church. But when you look at just what Jesus said, you know Paul is not in error. He's been misunderstood. And you've been deliberately misled. And now that's the same exact thing that the Democratic Party has done. All right. I mean, you have corrupted women. All right. And it's like, all these silly catchphrases. Uh, Toxic masculinity. Yeah, that's a cat lady. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Masculinity is just masculinity. It's just what a man has, and it's just there. But you have weak men who think that if they agree with this nonsense, they're gonna, get laid, so to say. I'm just all right. But you got to understand that women don't find you attractive. Women, it's so funny. I saw this thing. It was crazy. They asked these women in private, who do you want to date, red pill men or blue pill men? Damn near 90% of them said red pill men. Why? Because they don't want to date a sissy. Right? I'm sorry. And look, it took me a long time to find a good woman, right? Because I was looking in the wrong places. I led a terrible life, right? For some unknown reason, I thought I could find a good woman in a bar. No, you can't. All right. So I'm just so, and these women that complain about these men, where are you meeting them? I'm just asking you this question. It's a serious question, right? And it's like this hate stuff, like that, that whole thing about women shouldn't be allowed to vote and stuff, and repealing the 19. That's coming from Christians. Now, I told my wife this a long time ago, and I stand by it. The church is filled with weak men that are afraid of women and they're afraid of the world. That's why they say no politics from the pulpit, right? A woman's place is in the kitchen. Well, I kind of agree. I like a sandwich. Doesn't everybody like a sandwich? I like a sandwich.
I don't mind. Just to be clear, I don't mind doing the housewife things, but I don't want to go to church and then also be a housewife there and having to do the dishes and clean up. Hello, no, look, thank you.
There has to be something. I'm going to tell all the church people. There has to be something for the women in the church other than cleaning. She cleans at home. Why would she go to the church?
Thank you.
Now, I've never cared. I'll just listen to a good sermon. I love it. I don't care if it's a woman giving the sermon, a man giving the sermon. Who cares? All right. Now, when it comes to my house, I give my wife a wide berth. This really pissed a friend of mine off. I let her do pretty much whatever she wants to do. All right. But then there are certain things where the decision has to be made, and I'll make it. And my wife even knows this. She'll tell the kids, ask your father. Right? Now, that's not meaning I ain't going to get an I told you so if I'm wrong, which quite frequently happens.
I do not do that. That is one thing I definitely tell you, ladies.
Yeah.
Do never ever do that. If your husband is in charge and he makes the decision, if he makes a mistake, you don't get I told you.
But anyway, it happens sometimes. But one person has to be the decision maker when it comes down to it. And like I said, me and my wife, we pretty much agree on a lot of things, but there are things that we disagree with, and that's normal. That's what makes the marriage work. Now, that's the same thing with, there's only one party. These people are out to make money for themselves. Make no mistake about it. They're making money for themselves and their friends, both sides. Now, the conservative side, here it is again, look it up in the dictionary. They don't resist change, but they're smart enough to understand that change should be slow. Now we've looked at the last 4 years and you've seen what the left does with their rapid change. You've destroyed America. You've destroyed the schools. We're raising stupid children now. I hate to say that, but we are. When we started homeschooling our children, they were all like honor students, right? So we got down and tested them. None of them were at their grade level. They are now, but they weren't then. All right. We have issues that need to be fixed, and we can't get these issues fixed if we can't sit down to the table and talk about it without the mainstream media flapping their wings with propaganda and saying things that are not true. All right. They get out there and they'll say, oh, that's not true. And it is true. All right. I just watched it this morning. A fella sat down and talked to RFK Jr. for like 3 to 4 hours. And they were talking about the vaccines and the scientific evidence. And you had this news anchor just kept trying to interrupt him. No, you can't say that. That's not true. But it is true. All right. It's a scientific fact. Okay. And just like it's a scientific fact that life begins at conception, we know this because of in vitro fertilization. Okay. Now, whatever your feelings are on that, it does prove one thing, that when the egg is fertilized, it's alive. It has its own distinct DNA, and it's going to be a person. And for you to say one person has no value or more value over another person, that's just plain nasty. Okay. Yep. That's disgusting. Murdering a child for your convenience is wrong. All right. But that's just me. That's not the rule of the land. There's exceptions everywhere. All right. And that's the law. But in my house, that doesn't work. I'm not going there. It's nasty. And me and my wife agree on it.
Yeah. And let me say something about, okay, we live in a really weird time where
we do.
We have celebrity pastors. Have you seen that?
Oh, jeez.
They're everywhere. You have your Joel Osteens and your Kenneth Copeland and your Benny Hanns. They're, only foolish people would follow them, okay? Because it is obvious that they're in it for the money, and the followers of those people are in it for the money as well, and they think they're going to get something. So those
they do get something.
Yes.
Yes.
Those are pretty obvious to everybody. But let me say this. There are the other people, the ones that really think that they're doing something. So like your 3Gs and your grace communities and even all of those pastors. What you need to be paying attention to, they all have one message that needs to be told to the people, and they all agree on it. And if you follow the message, you will be supported by them. That's what I've seen. Always follow the trails, like that pastor that I was talking about. All of a sudden, he's so popular, and I'm like, I never heard of this guy. Well, he's supported by this other pastor, and then the other pastor, and then the other. Same for the Doug Wilsons of the world. They have set themselves up, and so that when they give the blessing to somebody, all of a sudden, all the followers go there. They grow up and stuff. There's a lot of. It sounds like conspiracy theory, but what I'm trying to tell you is, always follow the money. In all cases, whether it's political, whether it's your church, or whether
you know what that is, as a pyramid scheme.
Yes, wherever there is money involved, there is a problem. Right. I will tell you, in our channel that we do for our Christian stuff, we have very little following there. And it's probably going to stay that way because we talk common sense, about religion and things like that. But the idea of monetizing it somehow, it's scary to me because it feels like you're charging to
hear the word of God.
Hear the word of God. Yeah. And I mean, I've seen Mike Winger and guys like that they monetize their stuff and things like that. And he made an argument for it, and I have mixed feelings about it. But I get it. Some people make their living that way. But I don't think you're supposed to.
No, you're not. And look, the media, I'm not telling them they don't have the right to do this, okay? But I firmly believe that on every news show, right, on every news clip they put out there, news is noteworthy events, weather, and sports. Who decides? This is their opinion and their opinion only. And now they've reached this dangerous stage where they say it's fact checking, where they're lying. They're purposely lying, either willfully they're lying or they're just so ignorant that they don't know the real truth because they're not looking it up. I mean, you watch MSNBC, it's a joke right now. And this is the same thing with the church. I mean, I go on and on. This goes through every aspect of your life. Control it. That's why freedom of speech is the First Amendment, all right? And the right to keep and bear arms, right? That's the Second Amendment to protect the First Amendment. Without freedom of speech, you get a nasty nightmare, okay? When that stuff happened on January 6th at the Capitol, right? That little weasel, what's his name over there at Meta? What's his name? Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, that little twerp. I have nothing but dislike for him. I'm sorry, this is my opinion. Trump put out 2 tweets calling for peace, telling those people to leave the Capitol, calling out for peace. Zuckerberg took those down and shut the sitting president's voice off on Facebook, the only way to communicate with those people. All right. And by censoring the truth and censoring free speech, he caused that to be as bad as it was. And then we had to go years before we find out what those tweets were. All right. And there's no justice because he's an accomplice to what happened on January 6th. All of those FBI agents that were in the crowd, and we know they were there now, they're all accomplices. Why aren't we trying them? All of the Antifa, even Nancy Pelosi said it, right? But that goes back to the two justice system, and it goes back square in the pants of the media. If you believe a word that the mainstream media says, you are a special kind of stupid. With all those hurricanes and stuff, I am listening to hundreds of people on social media talking about how bad FEMA's response was. But you listen to the mainstream media, they're calling hundreds of people liars. Now, who am I going to listen to? The person that's homeless, that got no help from FEMA, or the mainstream media that says this guy is lying?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Both sides need to come together and do a compromise. But we cannot compromise on anything as long as you have government schools and a media that's a propaganda wing of the fascist, party. I'm not going to call them fat. Well, I did call them fascist, but of the left. I mean, you cannot, when you control the story, right? What happens is revolution. And I don't want to see that happen. I want us to come together, okay? And let's talk about the real issues, okay? Let's talk about why America is broke. And why America is broke? Because we're spending money in Ukraine, we're spending money in Israel, we're spending money on millions, like 10 million immigrants that came across the border in 3.5 years, all right? And the church, look, if you're a shepherd, lead, all right? I mean, stop this wishy-washy stuff.
I agree.
Yes, I agree too.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all I got my rant out today.
Look, be careful, okay? Just because your mom and your dad believe certain things in the church, and because the guy has a large following on the YouTubes and on the Twitters, and it's just a lesson you need to learn from all television, everything. Just because they're sitting up there with millions of people watching them, does not mean that they are right or that they have your best interest in mind.
And let me tell you something, okay? I have sons of voting age, right? And it's really hard for me, right? And I told that are we going to vote Democrat or Republican? I said, well, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I told him why I was going to vote for Trump. And I looked at my two sons in the eye and I said, look, you can vote for whoever you want or don't vote. That irritates me, but whatever. Anyway, but don't give me a catchphrase. If you have a valid reason to vote for Kamala Harris, a valid reason, without a catchphrase or without saying I feel, okay, then by far vote for her. All right? I mean, I heard one good reason this lady was going to vote for Kamala Harris. Now, it's not a good reason, but it's a reason. And I respected it. I respected her when she said that. She was going to vote for Kamala Harris because her and Kamala Harris have the same birthday.
Good enough for me.
Good enough. She has a reason, a real reason. Okay?
Yeah.
You might not agree with it. You might think it's silly. I think it's silly, but she had a real reason. So bless her.
Yeah.
But look, everybody, I'm commanded to love everybody, and I do. But the media, dang, guys, you make it hard. You sit there and tell deliberate lies.
Yeah, they do.
But anyway, I get excited, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Irritates my kids because I'm loud, right?
Nah.
But God bless everybody.
God bless.
Dang, we talked a lot.
You talk forever.
No, you talk
You
forever.
talk forever.
Anyway, bye-bye.
God bless.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.